Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today for Conversations with Christie. I took a little break off over the summer. I had some life events that have spurred this topic. I think one of the most important things in life is to be able to honor where you're at, honor the feelings that you are experiencing as a result of the events in your life and doing what you need to do to be able to take care of yourself to the best of your ability. Um, Allowing yourself to receive support from loved ones and family and coworkers, and just being able to, um, yeah, just receive, right? Um, so essentially, what happened was back in March, my oldest brother, Shawn, passed away at the age of 54 after his third heart attack in about 10 years. And, at first it really hit me, but it didn't. Right. Like I had both of my cats had passed away within a week of each other right after Christmas and during New Year's. And I felt so much grief from that, so that when my brother passed, it just felt like my body was really incapable of fully grieving. Like my body was like, enough already. And my family, namely my nephew, my brother's son, had decided to, host his end of life memorial Labor Day weekend so that all of his many siblings, you know, would be able to travel, right? To come together to honor his life and have time to prepare and plan and all of that. And so having that knowledge, this piece of me kind of decided, like it was like almost like a conscious decision to like hit the pause button on the grief process. One, my body was like, we can't handle this right now. And two, my intellectual mind was like, you have 6 months before you get to see your family and hug them and cry and, really fulfill the expression of grief, right? And and then in the course of that 6 months, my dog Sophie developed a tumor in her cheek that came back cancerous. We had it removed. A few months later, she started having seizures. So we knew it moved to her brain and we knew her time was very limited. Um, and so she ended up passing a week after my brother's memorial service. And, these last 9 months at this point, but six in particular, has really made me reflect a lot on life and death and grief and what that looks like. When I was a child, somewhere between ages of 7 and 9, you start really contemplating what it means to be alive, understanding that like death is a part of life, and just being really curious of like, well, what's that look like when you die, and where did I come from before I was born, and if I'm, and so my brain was like, well, if I'm just going to die eventually, maybe I should just die now. And like suicidal ideations at like 8 years old started to come in, and like there would be this like encompassing fear of death um that kind of stayed with me for a couple years. And throughout my life and studying philosophies and different ways of thinking and experimenting with hallucinogenic drugs and talking to so many different people and studying yoga in particular, right? I've really come to terms with the fact that consciousness exists beyond the tangible realm that we exist in this moment in the 3D world. What existence we had before this, we're not really meant to remember. What existence we'll have after this, who knows what we will remember and how far that goes. And then if you get into the ideas of reincarnation, like, oh, forget it, right? But over the years, just recognizing that death is a part of life and understanding what that really means, right? It's not really, Anthony, my partner, likes to say, it's not time, it's entropy, right? And through like cycles of intrusive thoughts, I've come to kind of realize that our existence now in this moment is a form of eternity itself, and that there's cycles within the eternity. And we kind of come into being and then we go back out like little blips on the radar, right? But what do we do with ourselves while we are alive? At one point, in the previous 2 years, I've been going through a lot of intrusive thoughts, a lot of depression and anxiety, and really working to heal myself through that and understand where it's all coming from, recognizing that my intrusive thoughts were just my subconscious brain's way of bringing my fears to the surface in a way that I could interpret. That there was this desire for power over my life, to feel in control and to feel safe in that there, right? And so one day I was reading an article and it was like, oh, there's going to be a solar flare that could potentially take out the whole planet. And I said to Anthony, if you knew you were going to die tomorrow because the planet was going to be destroyed, would you kill yourself first? Or would you wait till the very last minute, knowing there's going to be pain either way? And he said to me, the fact that we exist is such a miracle when you think about mathematically that we the probability of us even coming into existence, like how rare that truly is, what a gift that truly is. You hang on to every last minute that you can. And it just hit me. I was like, oh, yes. You just hang on to every last minute that you can. What a gift this experience is. No matter what you believe as to where it came from is irrelevant. Agnostic, Christian, whatever, Satan worshiper, Allah, whatever, Buddhist, whatever. Life is really, truly a gift, and there's been really interesting instances over the last couple of months where some of my reflections and realizations of life and existence, like, oh my God, they talk about that in the Bible, right? There is something very profound about the Bible as a religious text. But we cannot overlook the fact that it has been manipulated by men's desires. We're not here to talk about that. Just little side note, right? I'm not going to digress here. But just thinking about the spiritual meaning of life. You can literally just believe that in the law of mathematics and probability, somewhere along the way, life has to exist in more than one instance, in more way, one shape and form. And we got lucky. We hit the probability lottery. There is a quote by Rumi, and I never quite get it right, and I can't find the quote to make sure I can quote it correctly. Essentially, Rumi says, the universe wanted to know itself, so it created itself through me, so I can know myself through it. Essentially, we are reflections of the universe. Our consciousness is an expression of the universe attempting to get to know itself. I learned that years ago. John and Mimi in the Awakened Heart School in Albany. Ah, there's these little moments in time where the fear of death crops back in, and then you learn something that like allows you to feel a little soothed by life and its trials and tribulations and the unknown, right? Like the more sometimes I think about things, the more I start to realize maybe we're not meant to know certain things. We're just meant to experience life. But we do need to make sense of it. So then we thirst for more knowledge, and then we realize we don't know half as much as we think we do, and we should just go back to experience. But what does that experience comprise of? Well, one of the things I love to say is that people need people to survive. We cannot do this alone, right? Our modern day world has created this fallacy that we can live alone because we have houses where we can have Uber Eats and cars and whatever and grocery stores, and you can just be in your house all day by yourself and get what you need to survive. But everything that you encounter in this world, at least in this modern country, has been created by another person. A person, maybe even you create some of your own furniture or grow your own food. But when we think back to before technology existed, people needed to live in society, right? There are so many different roles to fulfill to exist in a way that we can like not suffer the whole damn time, but actually enjoy our experience. You know, in a tribe, someone would grow the food, someone would cook the food, someone would clean the dishes, someone would watch the children, someone would hunt the animals, someone would build the houses, someone would clean clothes, make clothes, you know, and then as technology advanced, these different roles would come into being, the universe trying to express itself through us. And essentially, what I've come to realize, and this is a teaching in yogic tradition that I very much love now that I've really started to like grow this understanding. The word dharma, Dharma, dharma is our purpose in life. The yogic philosophy. Karma is what we're born into this life with. If you believe in past lives, if you don't, just think of like your what you've inherited, right? Epigenetics, essentially. Or no, maybe I'm saying anyway, whatever. Karma and dharma. Dharma is your purpose in life. And when you boil it down, every person's purpose is to be of service to the other people in our lives. Whether that service is raising children, building homes, collecting trash off the streets, becoming a politician, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, an architect, an artist, a massage therapist, a dancer, a singer, a poet, a chef, a farmer, a psychologist, someone who creates code. At one point or another, everything we do is to be of service to another person. Now, some of these make sense, like a nurse, a mother, right? Immediately. You understand what that means. Some of them, not so much. Some of them you kind of gotta like dig a little deeper in. Like someone who just makes furniture, how's that of service? Well, you need a place to put your ass. If you really take the time to distill it, everything that we do is to be of service to another person. In our modern world, with the fallacy of independence, we have created a society where people have just become of service to themselves. You only go grocery shopping for yourself. You only cook for yourself. You have a home where your hot water is there for you. You don't really need people. But without the services that people provided for you, how would you actually be able to survive by yourself? Living alone in the wilderness with no other resources, no other people is very difficult. Not many people can hack it. That's why we developed society to protect ourselves and each other, to be able to be of service to each other. I think that's something we're losing touch with. We're becoming really separate. And I think that's why we're seeing the state of the world evolve into what it's evolving into, the constant school shootings, separation, bullying, war around the world, separation, bullying, demanding control. Where if we can reflect on the fact that at our most basic level, You can find something in common with every single person in this world outside of your basic desires, your basic essentials for survival, whether it's your favorite color, the types of food you like to eat, the types of music you like to listen to, the types of sports you like to play. We have more in common than we do not in common. But it's so easy to get caught up in what separates us because that is ego. My phone, do not disturb. Our ego wants us to feel separate and unique because that is the universe's way of getting to know itself. There's so many different expressions of self. It's really so beautiful when you think about the many different varieties that exist. But when we can pull back out, we can recognize that at the core of it, we are still very much the same. And that life is a miracle. And why are we taking that away from other people just because we don't agree with their differences? I think that's really profound to think about. How can we be of service to people that we don't agree with? How can we allow people to think and feel differently and not let it affect us on such an intrinsic level that we feel like we have to kill someone over it? I mean, my God, how tragic. But I think what this comes down to, and another distillation, is that people have lost touch with this idea of what it means to be of service to another, being able to fulfill your dharma. Everybody has a different role to fill. If everybody did the same thing, nothing would get accomplished. Right. And that's where the ego is necessary to help us find our unique talents. Because from that place of unique expression, we can fill the collective, and everybody has a place. Coming into alignment with your dharma allows you to fill your life's purpose, allowing you to be of service to others. But then also recognizing that others are here to be of service to yourself. How can you allow yourself to receive those services so that that person can fulfill their dharma and allow you to receive what you need to feel nourished and completed to complete your service for that other person? The cycle of dharma, right? And I think that that's where a lot of our anxiety comes from because we're out of alignment with our dharma due to demands of society and other people's attempt to control, to feel empowered by controlling others, right? People can have visions so big. And if they could really just let go of control and allow it to flow naturally, I mean, sometimes there has to be a little coercion, right? But if you could just keep it open and allow people to fulfill the role on their own terms, everything would come to pass as it were, and people would be able to do from a place that's actually meant for them. So when we're out of alignment, it creates this anxiety because we're not fulfilling our role. And so then we turn to medication and Netflix to kind of dampen that down, to feel better about it. So what can we do to support ourselves and being able to fulfill these roles? For me, I was reflecting this morning as I brought my daughter to school. I am very blessed in that I get to kind of create my own routine and my own parameters and my own rules. And then she has to be at school on a certain time. And the expectations around that, right? Structure is necessary. Without walls, we wouldn't have a house. But what we get to do inside those walls all gets to look different, right? So how do we get to work within the structure, but still meet it on our own terms? Outside of just me bringing my daughter to school and deciding my own schedule, I'm talking on like large societal values of, do you really need to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5? And what does it mean if you don't? How do we allow ourselves the freedom of expression and routine to meet our own natural needs and rhythms while still meeting the demands of the structure that allows us this life of freedom and ease? While also recognizing what it took to get here is that some people had to really struggle under a structure that was imposed upon them by other people. And you can say that the end justifies the means, but does it really if those means are not honored? So it comes back to gratitude for me. Being grateful that I've been born into the life that I have. I remember 7 years old, like reading about the Bible before I put it down. This is the best time in history to be alive up to this point. I mean, we have houses and running water and grocery stores and laundry machines. We don't have to grow our food and wash our clothes in the river and skin animals to make our food and carry water a quarter mile back to the village and bathe in the river. I mean, God, our lives are so fucking amazing. Even at the most depressing day filled with intrusive thoughts and anxiety, crippling anxiety of what is my life supposed to mean and what am I supposed to be doing? And God, I'm so alone. If you just sit back and look at the four walls you're in, like, you're pretty damn lucky. Now, I know it's not always that way for everybody all the time. There's so much trauma the world over, but let us not diminish our blessings in the face of honoring the trauma either. Both can be true at the same time. But if we don't sit in gratitude for what we have because of the trauma that exists, we just create more room for trauma. And that's really sad. Where if we can sit in gratitude, we eliminate the trauma that exists in this world. We can create that ripple effect of amazing things coming to fruition. Now, I know this is very idealistic. I know it's much deeper than what I'm saying. Believe me, I've spent hours over analyzing this in many conversations, complaining about government and war and whatever, but I really want you just for a moment to put all that bullshit aside, because it is just drama. It's very true and real drama, but just for a second, put it aside and just allow yourself to be in gratitude for the fact that you are alive at this point in time, no matter how bad things are. The fact that you exist is a miracle. And when you can honor that, it allows yourself to come into alignment a little bit more with your Dharma. Maybe you're already fulfilling it and you just don't recognize it because you're not in gratitude for the miracle of life that exists within you and the people around you, for better or for worse. There is a concept, the idea of like fate versus destiny. Fate's written in the stars. Destiny is based on your personal choice. Will you step up to the call or not? You get to decide what you want to do with it. Right? Maybe 10 people's dharma is to be a nurse, but someone is a nurse for the elderly, someone is a nurse for the children, someone is a nurse for people with brain injuries, right? You get to choose how to fulfill that. Maybe you go on to teach other nurses. This is just one example, right? Excuse my Bluetooth speaker in the background. Hmm. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be done with ease. The difficult things can be done with ease when we are able to come from a place of gratitude and reflect on the miracle that is life, and allow us to move from that place so that when we do finally die and we leave behind the people that we love so dearly, hopefully at the end of a long, fulfilling life, although when that is, we never get to choose. As long as you're coming from a place of gratitude, when your time is here, you know you have fulfilled everything you were supposed to in this time that you had. There is this idea of quantum immortality, though. My daughter just got home. Nice. Real quick. Thank God for technology. So back to quantum entanglement. Why is this important? Or I'm sorry, quantum immortality. How can we go from talking about, why it's important to fulfill your dharma to like this idea of quantum immortality? Like the fact that life continues on beyond this existence in the 3D now. I think that, and this is a fascinating subject. I'm not going to dive too deep into the idea that quantum immortality is that our spirit exists, right? Matter can neither be created nor destroyed, it just changes, right? So that means our souls just change at some point. Why does this matter? So if we go back to that concept of Rumi's quote, that we are just expressions of the universe trying to get to know itself through us, the lessons that we learn on this earthly plane do affect the overall vibration of the universe to some extent. I feel like that's a whole other topic to go into on a much deeper level at another point in time. But I just say that as a reminder that our existence, no matter how big or small we may think it is, still has an effect on the world around you. How you choose to engage with the world determines your effect on the world. Are you going to be the person who flips off the guy running the red light? Or are you going to be the person who says hello and smiles to every person you see on the street? Obviously, there's a time and a place for both. I like to give a thumbs up instead of a flip off. But at times when life can feel really meaningless and sad, when we lose the people that we love, oftentimes far too early, I have to come back to gratitude for the miracle that is this existence. And how can I be of service to others so that I can allow myself to receive the service of others, fulfilling the cycle of Dharma that everybody in this world is born into, and being grateful for the miracle that we get to call life. Let me know in the comments how this resonates for you. I hope this helps you find some peace. Let me tell you, it took a while to get me here. And I just wish you many blessings on your journey. Namaste, friends.